Thanks, Ted. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Isabel, and I'm Head of Front-End Engineering and a Development Manager at Gumtree. To give you a bit of my professional background, I studied computer science at the University of Wollongong, and I graduated with a Bachelor and Master of Computer Science from the university. I've been working in technical roles since I started my career, and I've worked for telcos, media, financial institution, digital agency, startup, and e-commerce. Outside of work, I like to read, write, and learn continuously, and I'm a little bit addicted to technology, so my favorite things to do online is to look at memes, and you'll see some meme a bit later. And I also enjoy spending time with my family, especially being silly with my 5-year-old daughter. So that's me in a nutshell. Now I like to do a quick poll. Who here has done hiring before? Quite a lot. So who here hasn't done hiring, but they think they'll be doing it in the future? No? And who here think they don't want to be doing any hiring in the future at all? Oh, not many. Okay. So when I first saw this meme, I laughed. And I thought I'd just get some honest opinion from my daughter. So I asked her, how old do you think I was? And she said, 79. And that was 2 years ago, so I'm actually 81 today. Anyway, so I think it's in the best interest of everyone to make hiring great again today. So let's get to it. Okay, this diagram right here is a typical hiring funnel, and we have got about 5 stages. And usually, a hiring manager will repeat step 2 to 4 until they find the most suitable candidate. So it sounds quite fairly straightforward and easy, right? I don't know, Ted, why you have any problem. It looks straightforward. Well, actually, no, it's not easy. So just look at some of these headlines that we often see on media and the internet. And to be honest, I actually didn't type any of these. I copy and pasted them from the information superhighway, which is the internet. So the saying about the D-Way being in the D-Days couldn't be more right in this case. There are a lot of things that could go wrong when you are hiring for someone, especially technical talent. And I'm not sure whether it's because I'm more exposed to it, but it seems to happen quite a lot in technical roles. So at every stage of the process, there seems to be something that goes wrong, and usually you end up with someone who you thought you hire for, but they are actually not the person that you thought, or they don't have the technical skill or whatever. So how are we going to solve this problem? Today, I'd like to share with you the best practices for hiring technical talent for your company based on my personal experience and learnings that I've had in the last decade. And the good or maybe the bad thing is that I've made quite a few mistakes in the past, so I like to think that I learned a little bit too. So I'll be grouping, I'm told not to move so far away from this, so I have to stick here. So I'll be grouping the learnings or best practices that I've got in 3 stages: preparation, execution, and lastly, evaluation. So let's start with preparation. So if you are a hiring manager here, you might be thinking, hang on, I've got a job to offer. I shouldn't be the one doing the preparation. It should be the candidate who should be doing the preparation so they can get the job that I have on offer. Is that right? Yes and no. Candidate definitely need to do the preparation, but you as a hiring manager need to do the preparation so you know why you are hiring and what kind of candidate that you like for the role that you have. So you need to do the preparation. So the first and foremost step that we have here is to document the selection criteria. And yes, you need to do this even before you start hiring for the role or you start writing the job advertisement, because this selection criteria will serve as a great input for what you are going to put in your job advertisement. And earlier, James has got the quadrant 2 and 2. I got 3 and 3. I didn't see his slide before, so I just had 3 and 3. I'm not trying to beat you. So I like to share with you what I call a selection criteria or competency metric. So on the y-axis, we have got skill, will, and experience. So let me deep dive a bit into what we mean by skill, will, and experience, because it's easy to mix them up and make hiring mistake. So skills are also known as competency or the know-how. So for example, if you are hiring for a developer, it's about what sort of programming language that can they use, what sort of language that they can use. So it's quite straightforward. Will is the desire to learn or do something. So you might be looking for certain passion or the drive in certain candidates, especially if you are a startup, and they might not necessarily have the skill. So for example, in a technical area, a person's CV might say that she knows a certain JavaScript framework. But will is to understand whether this person like this particular JavaScript framework and whether she prefers over 55 million JavaScript framework out there in the market right now. So this is about will. So it's about understanding the candidate's self-motivation and what makes them click. So I have a huge interest in different personality type, and I've read this book called The 4 Tendencies. Have anyone read it before? So the 4 tendencies actually describe different tendencies that a person can belong to and how you can sort of gauge a personality type based on the answers that they give. So I find this information quite helpful in understanding whether someone has got the willingness to learn something or do something, even if they might not necessarily have the skill or the experience. And the last thing we have here is experience. So experience is quite straightforward. It's a practical contact or the application of the skills that they have got. So whether a person can apply certain skill in real life or whether they have done it before. So these are the 3 things that you can look at in the y-axis. And on x-axis, we have got must have, should have, and nice to have. So I've got a few examples of some must have, should have, and nice to have, and I've grouped them into like technical area and soft area. And what you can do here is this actually help you to determine the level of requirement you want from the candidate. Because let's face it, nobody is excellent in everything. You might want someone who is really good at a particular skill or a core programming language, and you might say, if they have this additional skill is nice, but it's not necessary. So putting these things in this metric help you really understand what kind of candidate that you have and whether you value skill over the will or whether you value certain experience over certain skills or whether it's nice to have or whether it's a must-have. So like I said before, you can use this selection criteria to clearly identify the requirement that you have for the role with the level of excellence that you need. So after you have done the work on understanding and identifying what you need for the role, or also known as the what, the next step in preparation is to look at how you are going to achieve what you have identified here. So that's the how. When it comes to looking for technical talent, I find this sort of structure work the best. And because we are all time busy, especially in tech industry, we are all time busy, time poor. And the quicker we can rule out a candidate, then the better is for both parties. So both the hiring manager and also the candidate. So initial screening is the first step. And it's a quick and easy way to find out if candidate is worth processing. So if I'm a hiring manager, I have got a few questions that I like to ask at the initial screening stage, but no more than 5. So the key here is to keep it simple and concise. So what you did earlier with the selection criteria, you can refer to it quickly, and what are the must-have that you really need for the role, and come up with a question that answer these must-have that you have. So for example, if you are looking for a candidate with a particular skill or experience in a certain area, you might ask them for, you don't ask them like, do you have this? And they probably say yes. But you might ask them for example of work that they have done in the past using this technology. And another one is if you have got non-negotiable for the role. So for example, if you have a role like an engineering manager for APAC or whatever, and you need the candidate to travel 40% of their time to different countries, then it's a good idea to check if the candidate is able to do that. Because trust me, even if you say you mention all these details in the job ad and all they have to do is read it, most people usually look for keywords that they have, and they tend to miss important bits. And it doesn't matter if you write in like font 20 or highlighter it or in Comic Sans or whatever, they still miss it. So it's a good idea to check at the initial screening. And if all is good with the initial screening, I like to give candidate what I call a coding exercise, a take-home exercise. So there has been a few like debates around giving candidates a take-home exercise. Some company prefer to do it, some company don't like to do it. But from my experience, I have to say I've found that it works quite well. Before, I wasn't quite sure if this would deter them from applying for the role that they want to get, or whether this takes too much time. But based on the feedback that I've had from the successful candidate that I hire for the role that I have, or even the unsuccessful one, I've come to a conclusion that developer actually don't mind doing a take-home exercise, as long as it doesn't take days to complete or it's a real-world scenario, and you sort of set the expectation and say, I need you to do this by this day, and I get back to you by this day. So it's about setting the expectation and how long they need, and they can do it from the comfort of their culture, so it's all good. And if a candidate do well in their take-home exercise, then the next, and by well, I mean meeting the expectation for the role, depending on the seniority level, then invite them over for face-to-face interview or Google Hangout or Skype, depending on where they are located physically. So I usually have two types of interview. One is the technical interview with developers and other team member that they'll be working with, and cultural interview usually with a GM or a CTO or a head of product or whoever. And I like to keep a maximum of 5 interviews. Why 5 face-to-face interview, I hear you ask. So if you are meeting someone for 5 times, or if you have asked them to come into your office for 5 times, and you are still not sure whether they are the right fit for the role, and you still need a bit more convincing, then it's safe to say that they probably aren't. So I like to keep it as a maximum of 5 interviews. And what I like to do is, I also like to have a mixed panel of interviewer for diversity purposes, and also to eliminate unconscious bias. So for example, if I'm hiring for a developer for a team A, then I like to invite their peers for the interview, but also maybe a tech lead from a different team, a team B, and also a product manager that they might be working with. So this helps ensure that they are not just good technically, but they can also work with other people, and they have a chance to understand the role that you have and the company structure that you have. So my rule of thumb is to have at least 2 interviewers for each interview, and about 4 maximum, because you don't want to have too many interviewers and just one interview. And the interviewee, they feel a bit intimidated. So at least 2 interviewers for each interview, whether it's a technical or a cultural. One of the really important best practices that I like to encourage is to have the same set of questions for all the candidates for the same role. So this allows you to easily refer back to how successful candidate has done in the past, and also set the same level playing field for all the candidates that apply for the role. And this doesn't mean that I don't ever allow anyone to ask any extra question, or I forbid them from asking question or anything like that, but this just means that there are a set of questions that always get asked for certain type of role. So I like to deep dive a little bit into the type of questions that you can ask at the interview, because I've made a few mistakes in asking the wrong question, or focusing too much on certain type of question and hiring not the best talent or not the best fit for the role. So there are 4 types of questions that you can ask. First is the recall question. Recall questions are also known as, like they recall something from a memory, so it's a test of knowledge. So for example, you might ask a developer something like, what's the difference between JSON-P and JSON, and one you would use one over the other. So this sort of try to get an understanding of their technical skill. So you can know this, you can answer this if you read well, or if you have a computer science degree or something like that. So if they have the knowledge, then they can do it, and this is a test of skill. And second type of question is core reflective question. So this question actually require more sophisticated level of cognitive processing or thinking. So for example, what's your motivation for applying for this role? So this is something that they need to think about and come up with an answer for you. So this is the reflective type of question. And number 3, we have got behavior question. So these questions are actually quite popular, and later I share with you 30 behavior questions that you can ask interviewees to understand their willingness or their behavior. But these questions usually start with something like, give me an example of time when you encounter a production issue and walk me through how you fix this issue, or how you manage a conflict between another team member, and how do you talk to like someone from a different department, or things like that. So it is an open-ended question that allows candidates to deep dive and explain to you what they think about certain situation. But bear in mind that contrary to popular belief, these questions can be prepared. If you search on the internet, there are like a lot of top 10 or top 20 questions or behavior questions that people can prepare. And if you have got a good storyteller who came in for the interview, which I had before, then they will do really well for this kind of question. So what should we really ask to really understand a candidate, their level of skill, their experience, and their way of thinking, or their problem-solving ability? So this is where hypothetical questions come in. So these questions use a real-world scenario. So you can use a problem that you may be having at your organization, or something that you are hiring this person to do, and you can phrase the question in this way. So for example, we would like to introduce certain technology to our company, and these are the conditions, because you always want to ask for the specify the conditions that you have. So this really allows them to think through and understand the problem. And what's the success criteria? Our goal is to, whether it could be reducing the release process by a few hours or a few days, or to have like more collaboration, or whatever it might be. And then the question that you ask is, how would you go about doing it so we can achieve this goal? So this actually requires the candidate to first understand the problem, also understand what they are going to say, and also their way or their problem solving ability. And you require quite a bit of thinking for this as well. So this is the best type of question that I found in really understanding the candidate level of skill, experience, and also their problem-solving ability. And what I like to suggest is to use a mix of these type of questions to really understand the candidate, but most importantly to tell an A player apart from a B or C player, because there are some people who are just good at doing interview, or who are just good storyteller. But if you use a mix of these questions, then you will likely find out who is an A player and who is a B player. So far we have done quite a bit of preparation. We know about the what and the how. So now we need to start thinking about the who and the where. So where do we find these people? According to the Stack Overflow Developer Survey this year, we know that only 13% of the developers are looking for a job, but 62% can be actually tempted. So someone, a developer or a technical person, might not be necessarily looking for a job or in the market, but if you ask them, and if you ask them the right question, they can be easily swayed away. And this is true for everyone. I mean, like, I can do a show of hands, but just in case your boss is in the room, I won't. But most of us can be tempted easily. And it's quite true for developer, because developer and technical people are quite excited about challenges. So if you can present them with the challenges that they think is exciting enough, then they can be swayed away. So this means that there's a total of 74% 5% of people at any point in time who are interested in the hearing about the job opportunity that you have. So that's a good news. But how do we attract these people? So firstly, we need to look at what matters for these technical talent. And for this survey, I've got developer statistics, so I focus on the developer, but you can replace it with architect or engineering manager or DevOps or whatever. So what are developers looking for? So this, thanks to the Stack Overflow survey again, we can see that these are the top 5 things that developers are looking for. Firstly, like we mentioned earlier, opportunity for professional development or the challenges. And of course, the compensation of benefits and the office environment and so on. So you can use this information to actually prepare a job ad. So in the job ad, you can mention like, these are the things that we offer. But the only thing is only mention the things that you actually already offer, because you don't want to say like, oh, we use this technology, and they come in and they found out you don't actually use it. It's not good. So be honest and only mention the things that you actually already offer at the company. Or sometimes we might think that we had this mistake. I've had this mistake before about mentioning about certain technology that we were planning to use in the future, but we are not using it yet. It's not lying, but they saw it and they expect that we will be using this kind of technology. So just be honest and only mention the things in the job ads that you actually already offer. And if you really have nothing that you can offer, that's the things that developers are interested in, then maybe it's time to start thinking about what are the things that you offer or what are your unique selling propositions. So it's just a chance for you to think about how to write a job ad. So now, where do we put this awesome job ad that we have put together? So we have got the requirement, what we need for the role, what we can offer the candidate, their level of skill and experience required. So where do we put this job ad? So there's no point if you have got an awesome job ad and nobody else can find it but yourself, and you can't apply for the role. So thanks to the Stack Overflow survey again, we know how developers found their current job. And we can use this information to put our job ad or let other people know about the job that we have on offer. And I can confirm that the one that I've highlighted here or bolded here are how my successful hire currently have found the job that they are currently in. So this is actually how developers found their current job. So now you are thinking, do we have everything that we need to start hiring? We have the who, the what, the how, and the where. Can we start hiring now? Is the preparation done now? Let me just check the time. So is the preparation done now? Almost. So we are not quite done yet. Because one of the observations that I've had in the past is that sometimes hiring manager take too long to fill a role, and they don't even realize how long it was. So the role will be open for 5 minutes. The role will be open for a while, and then they don't realize. So I understand it takes time and effort to find a good talent, but you need to set the goals to make sure that you are meeting this goal. So this is an example of a goal that you can have, and then you can think about, if you are not meeting the goal, then you can think about revisiting the requirements. So maybe you are asking for too much. So maybe you're asking for front-end, back-end, DevOps, and a unicorn who can do everything. So this just gives you a chance to look at a female. Yeah, I'm a female. It exists. So it just gives you a chance to look at the things and make sure that you are being realistic about it. So the key is to keep it simple and smart. So these are the preparation stages. And now I know you are thinking, there's too much work and we haven't even actually started hiring. But let me guarantee that if you put quite a bit of investment in the preparation, the later stages, which is like the actual hiring or assessment and evaluation, is a lot easier because you have a clarity on the what and the how. So let's move quickly into the execution. So what do we do for the execution? At the execution stage, you basically commit, communicate, and deliver on your promises that you set earlier or you defined earlier. And does anyone know why I've got the Nike logo here? Okay, so it's because their slogan is just do it, and I like to add to do it well. So during the execution, you do what you said you were going to do and just do it well. It's quite simple. And lastly, the evaluation. How do we know a candidate is the right person for the role and a right fit for the role? Well, the good thing is that both you and the hiring manager and the candidate has done quite a bit of work to get to this stage. So use the amount of work that you have put in, the coding exercise, the technical interview, the criteria, to find whether to assess the person and ask powerful questions. So I say ask powerful questions because these are quite important, and I like to share with you some of the powerful questions that I like to get answer for. So does the candidate have skill, the will, and experience at the level that you require? So this is where the metric come in really handy. So they might just have the skill, but you also need the experience, so you need to understand. And is she a good fit technically and culturally? So you can refer back to answer from the cultural interview. And last but not least, hiring someone is a two-way process. So it's not like you have the job and you have something to offer and they have nothing to offer. They have the skill and experience. So you need to think about whether you can offer something that she's looking for and keep them engaged for long. Because hiring is hard, but retaining people is harder. So you need to think about these things. And for example, for a technical person, they might be looking for opportunity for growth or stability or opportunity to use new technology and so on. So think about these things and make sure that you ask these questions to the decision maker, because it's important not to make the decision all yourself, because you tend to make like unconscious bias or make emotional or bad hire. So that's it for the evaluation. Are you successful now? And can you sit back and relax? Sorry, no. So there are three final things that you need to do, and I've seen it firsthand how important they are in ensuring that you don't lose the candidate that you have just secured. So send a written offer as soon as possible. This gives them an opportunity to speak to their current employer and know that they are actually successful, and also set expectation on when they will receive a written contract and any other paperwork that you need them to do. And last but not least, keep them keen actually until they actually step into your office. So always keep the water warm, so to speak. So I've shared with you the best practices for 3 stages of the hiring process: preparation, execution, and evaluation. And I believe that, well, I've had quite a few success using this, so I hope that you have got success in them as well. And before I leave, I like to share some words of wisdom with you. So firstly, the best technical talent does not have to be the smartest or the most expensive one. Sometimes you will hear like recruitment agencies saying, oh, we have got a unicorn developer or someone who can do everything or the most genius or whatever. But only you know who is the best fit for the role that you have, and both culturally and technically. So you need to come up with the selection criteria, and only you know. And lastly, there's no right way or wrong way when it comes to hiring. What I've just presented here is based on my experience on hiring, and it's not to say you have to follow all this. It's up to you to pick and choose whatever you want to apply and use it to your advantage. And last but not least, somebody asked me why I like to use the word like a boss. In case you don't know, like a boss describes a person who completes an action with authority and finesse. So let's all hire like a boss. Thank you.